Thank you to everyone for joining us today on this special day. It's a great day for both NCHC and Arizona State University. We're excited to welcome Arizona State as our 9th member starting in the 24-25 season. To get things started, we will have opening statements from NCHC Commissioner Heather Weems, Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson, and Arizona State hockey head coach Greg Powers. Once we have opening statements, we will then open it up to media for questions. To ask a question, please type your name and your media affiliation in the general chat, and I will call upon you in the order that they are received. Please make sure you keep yourself muted unless called upon so that we can make sure we clearly hear everyone's answers and questions. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. I will open it up with an opening statement from NCHC Commissioner Heather Weems. Heather, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon. On behalf of the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, our board of directors, and member institutions, I want to thank the media and special guests for joining us today for this milestone moment in the life of the NCHC. As commissioner, and prior to this role, a longtime athletics director within the conference, I couldn't be more excited to officially announce the addition of Arizona State University and Sun Devil hockey to the NCHC family. As many of you know, this is the first membership change in the league's 10-year history. Since its inception, the NCHC has been defined by its members' commitment to supporting nationally competitive programs focused on a first-class student-athlete experience. Over the course of the past 7 years, since elevating to NCAA Division I hockey, Arizona State has continually raised its standards and demonstrated by word and deed their commitment to the same type of high-quality college hockey. With the opening of Mullet Arena last fall, another box was ticked, and the conversation between the NCHC and ASU became more serious as we jointly discussed membership opportunities. In the last couple of months, our university presidents and chancellors and athletic directors became more focused on this path forward. Arizona State University is recognized nationally for its innovation and academic quality. It also brings a strong national brand, robust alumni base, and growing Southwest hockey market to the NCHC. I know this addition will make our conference stronger and carry on our league's tradition of fast-paced, gritty hockey each night the puck is dropped. I also know our coaches, student athletes, and many alumni and fans are dreaming of the obligatory wink wink trip to the Tempe Desert in the cold of winter. This past weekend, the board of directors met and voted unanimously to support ASU's membership. I would like to thank the board of directors, NCHC Athletics Council, and AD Chair Leslie Irvine, our head coaches, for robust conversation in bringing us to this point. I want to specifically thank University of North Dakota President and Board Chair Andy Armacost for his leadership, and ASU's Vice President of University Athletics, Ray Anderson, and Senior Associate AD Frank Ferrara for their passion and commitment. They have been responsive and genuine throughout our conversations and this process. And now, join me as we welcome Arizona State University and Sun Devil hockey to the NCHC's proud tradition.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate that. With that, I will turn it over to ASU Vice President for University Athletics, Ray Anderson. Ray, welcome.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this very exciting and timely announcement. So on behalf of our president, Michael Crow, our Arizona Board of Regents, and all of us at Sun Devils Athletics, we give you a hearty thank you. And thanks to the NCHC chancellors and presidents led by President Armacost of University of North Dakota. Thank you to the athletic directors and the coaches for their support. But we want to especially thank Commissioner Weems, Heather, the genuine, transparent, and supremely professional manner in which you handled this entire vetting process really impressed us. And you working along our esteemed colleague, Frank Ferrara, our CFO, I mean, the whole process of getting us to today was done so collaboratively, so efficiently, and with a real true sense of partnership, and that is very, very much appreciated. Know that from the perspective of Arizona State specifically, our primary objective in joining our conference was to assure that we acted in the best interest and welfare of our student athletes, period. And so joining this conference puts our hockey program in the most elite conference in the country, in our belief, and provides the best fit for our student athletes, our university at large, and our fans on multiple levels. So we at ASU are supremely thrilled and honored to become a full member of this dynamic hockey conference. And I now have the pleasure of turning the microphone over to Coach Greg Powers. He's been our head coach since day one when we decided we wanted to elevate it from club hockey. And with the determined his efforts and with the generous financial support of our hockey benefactors, and very frankly, along with the entrepreneurial and innovation philosophy and spirit of our own president, Michael Crow, we determined together that we could indeed build and then sustain a quality Division I men's ice hockey program. And so allow me to share with you that we confidently sit here today and believe that we are now well on our way. And so with that, Coach Powers, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Ray. And with that, as he said, Coach Powers, will turn it over to you. Welcome to the NCHC and take the floor away.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here today. This is a monumental day for our program. I think for the growth of college hockey, this is also just as monumental. And I don't want to be too redundant in everything that Ray said, but it goes without saying that the support that we have as a program internally from Dr. Crow, from Ray Anderson, from Frank Ferrara to get this done cannot be overstated. And it's the right time for Arizona State hockey to join a league. And it sure seems like the right time for the NCHC to expand and include us in their league. And we are so thrilled and honored to be a part of such a prestigious league. It's the best conference in college hockey. It's the best single sport conference in all of college athletics, with five of the last seven national championships. It goes without saying. So again, I don't want to get too redundant with an opening statement other than just to really convey how excited we are to be a part of this incredible conference. And we're going to do everything we can every day to make sure that we contribute to it and continue to build on its great tradition. So thank you.
Thank you, Coach Powers. And thanks to Ray and Heather as well for opening statements. With that, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions from the media. As I said at the beginning, but for those that may have joined a little late, if you have a question, please type your name and media affiliation in the general everyone chat, and I will call upon you in the order that I get them. Please keep yourself muted unless you're called upon to ask the question. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. Craig Morgan, PHNX Sports, go ahead and ask your questions for Ray and Greg.
Hi, Ray. I wanted to start with this one. With all the options that were available to you, and I know you've been weighing some, whether it's remaining independent, joining the Big Ten, joining this conference, what would you say were the factors that tipped the scales in favor of this conference?
There were many, but first and foremost, it was what was in the best interest of our student athlete experience, what was best for their welfare. And I'm talking about the whole picture, Craig. Certainly you want elite competition. You want to make sure we're in a conference that is academically strong and driven. But we also wanted to make sure that the competition level also played into their scheduling. We're academics. And so the geography, the proximity, along with those other things just made the most sense for us. And then very frankly, you want a conference that wants you equally badly, positively, and was very honest and transparent about it. So there were so many things about the NCHC that drove us to believe that this was absolutely the right fit for us culturally, competitively, in everything that we're charged with in terms of promoting the holistic experience of our student athletes. That's what it came down to.
Ray, can you take us a little inside the entire process? When did talks begin? What were the discussion points and how did it reach fruition?
Well, I'll ask Coach Power to also share in this, but Craig, you may know that we had our first discussion with this esteemed conference back in 2016.
Right.
And very frankly, at the time, very reasonably and understandably so, there may have been some trepidation about what our real future was. We were playing in Oceanside Ice Rink. You've been there, 750, 800 seats. We were coming off a very successful club, a couple of decades, but people really didn't understand the depth and the level of our commitment, and we understood that. So Coach Powers and I and Frank and Morgan Olson and others who were close to our program knew that we just had to prove our way. We had to prove our case, make our case. And so we put our head down as an independent and said, we will do that. And so it started a few years ago, to be sure. Coach Powers, you can chime in. I don't know if Frank has got the ability to speak, but go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, I think you said it best. I think that this has been, you know, our desire to be a part of this conference from day one. And you know, back and we originally applied, the best thing that ever happened was that it didn't happen. You know, the NCHC, in their defense, was just getting started, and they were still getting their house in order, and there was really no real reason for them to expand at that time in their infant stages. And for us, we needed to get our house in order as an independent program that just started a Division I program almost on a whim. For some people, that's what it seemed like. And we needed to get an arena in place, and we needed to get some traction on the ice. And we did all those things with the end goal in mind of this day. And we're very proud of everything that we've accomplished, and feel like we've earned. And again, just very proud to be a part of this conference.
Greg, one follow-up for you, and I'll cede the floor. With all the challenges that you and I have talked about over the years, you're the only team in this region, and perhaps you're in this time zone. You played at Oceanside at as Ray just mentioned. You played an entire season on the road in the Big Ten. With all of the challenges that you have faced, is this the final major piece of the foundation that you needed to get things really up and running and take that next step?
I believe it is. I really do. You know, like Ray mentioned, this is all about our student athletes and the experience that they now get and chasing you know, the Penrose Cup every season and playing in a conference tournament and never being out of it, you know, and always having a chance to you look at what Colorado College did this year. They got hot at the right time, and they were a goal short of winning their league tournament and making the NCAA tournament. And, you know, so when you have that ability, you're always in it. You're always in the fight when you're in a league. And that's what we're most excited for. And we're most excited that our student athletes are going to experience. And we would not be here if not for all the players that believe this day could happen and came here and built it without that in mind and had no real plain vision of when that would happen. They came here to help us build a program to get to this day, and we would not be here without any of them.
Thank you, Ray and Greg.
Thanks, Craig. With that, we'll move on to Paul Hornstein with Ice Time Hockey West.
The building started getting, we understand the situation, the building started being constructed during the pandemic. But once that started to happen, were there any conversations? Was there any, at least according to the scuttlebutt, you guys talked to a lot of different people. The 2-year time that it took to build the building, was that a factor, or everybody wanted to, or did everybody want to wait until the building was finished?
Who's that question for, Paul?
Either for the coach or Mr. Anderson, whichever.
I think, Paul, I mean, when you're a member of anything, you have to be able to give reciprocal value, and now we can do that with this building. Like Commissioner Weems mentioned, I think we're a destination trip for any team that comes and plays us during the winter to experience a game day environment like we now provide for our student athletes, our opposing team student athletes, and then the opportunity to come to a destination city in the middle of the winter is huge. And we had that, but not, at Oceanside, you couldn't necessarily call a 2-game series a destination trip. And so now we can, and we certainly don't hold any ill will towards any league not looking at us seriously until we got this done. But this building shows our commitment, our university's commitment, Dr. Crow, Ray's, Frank's commitment to ice hockey at Arizona State, and it's culminated in today.
Yeah. And Paul, I would say, during the pandemic, there were a lot of projects that went on pause, went on hold.
Right.
And so you can certainly understand the hesitation of anyone wanting to see us come out of Oceanside. When were we really going to go into our new arena? And the thing I'm most proud of here at ASU and really, really, really grateful to Dr. Crow is that he said, this is a project that we're just going to keep moving along because there's so many benefits that wait us at the end. And we're not going to be sidetracked by any excuse for the pandemic or COVID. So this was a project that was designed to serve multiple constituents. It's our club teams, our youth teams, our adult leagues. We're going to have concerts. We're going to have a lot of other opportunities to use this venue for the good, not just of athletics and Sun Devil hockey, but the university at RIP and the community at RIP. So this was a venue that was programmed to be completed. Now, we were slowed a little bit because of supply chain and labor and whatnot, but there was never a point where this building was not going to get done. And it did get done, and we're really proud of it. But you can't fault anybody for maybe hesitating a little bit more on the timing, but not with the NCHC. We were going to have conversations, and they weren't backing off, and we appreciate that. That meant a lot to us.
Was there a specific position as to because the release said you guys that they'll be starting in the conference next year? Was there a specific reason that was chosen as opposed to, not that they wouldn't want to be in the conference as quickly as possible, but was there a decision, something specific that made that the timeline,
Greg,
for next year?
Well, from our standpoint, the sooner for us, the better. We want our student athletes to experience being in a conference for all the reasons that I've already mentioned. So for us, it was the sooner the better. I can't speak to the other side of it as to why that they thought 24 or 25 was the best, but I'm selfishly very glad that they did.
Heather, you want to add anything on the timing of why maybe not this season and next season?
I think the basic answer is the earliest possible opportunity was what we thought was in the best interest. This year, obviously, just from a scheduling perspective and even bylaws and just getting our ducks in a row per se, it takes a little bit of time. So we thought the 24-25 schedule, we know that it still provides some inconveniences, certainly for our current coaches and for Coach Powers, as everybody readjusts, and there'll be some trickle effect in college hockey as they all go to reorganize schedules, but we've tried to minimize that as much as possible. And we just thought that, the sooner we could get reorganized, the better, and this was the best opportunity.
One last one for Coach, because I'm sure you were the one that delivered the news. And I know the players are all over the place now, but what was the, I'm sure, very predictable reaction from the players when you told them?
Well, the players are excited. Obviously, it's what college hockey players want. They want to be able to compete for championships, and this allows us to do that no matter what. So they're very excited. And the message was, hey, this is our last independent season, and it's kind of a turning of the leaf, so to speak, that this team this year gets to kind of wear that badge of honor and empty the tank and most importantly, honor all the guys that came before them that made this day possible. And that's exactly what we plan on doing.
One last one, I assume.
I thought that was your last one, Paul.
Well, I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut you off, Paul. We got to get to some other people. So
No problem.
you can get your name back in the chat if you want.
Okay.
All right. We'll move on to Brad Schlossman with the Grand Forks Herald.
Heather, how much is the entrance fee, and have you guys discussed like how many payments or how it's going to be paid over the number of years?
Yes, we have determined the entrance fee. It is $500,000 payable over 3 years.
All right. Next question. The voice of CC Tiger Hockey, Ken Lando, KRDFM Radio.
Heather, can you let us know what the vote was in terms of accepting Arizona State into the league?
Yes, we had great, robust conversation with our board of directors on Sunday night after a presentation by Vice President Anderson and Frank Ferrara, and it was a unanimous 8-0 vote. in support.
And one follow-up to that, if I may. Currently with the scheduling, teams are playing, I guess, their closest rival, their natural rival in the final weekend of the regular season. Obviously, that has to change with the new scheduling format. Has there been discussion, or has it been determined yet how that will work starting in the 24-25 season?
Yes, we have a scheduling model that is in draft form and written out. As those of you who have followed know, that we used to have a bye weekend. 4 of our teams played each of the first and second weekends of February, and the other 4 teams were off. In the new scheduling model, in that second half, every team rotates through one bye throughout that second half of the season. And there will be a rotation for that last game. So there will be one team that sits idle in that last weekend each year.
There's a little bit of detail on the scheduling in the press release as well, Ken, that might help answer some of that.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Ken. Back to Brad Schlossman with the Grand Forks Herald.
You're going to an odd number of teams. Has there been discussion about possibly going to 10 at some point, or moving back to an even number of teams? How important is that for the league?
I mean, obviously, we always are trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in college hockey alignment and just what's in the best interests of our institutions and our overall conference. Obviously, we're always just thinking about what the future looks like. At this point, we have a 9-team membership, and we will be going forward with that until something makes sense that looks different than that. And obviously, we're at a time in the NCAA landscape where there's some ambiguity and some changes that are happening across the board. And so right now we feel very confident that we have the right 9 teams as part of our membership, and we'll just continue to consider as we go forward.
Thanks, Heather. Back to Paul, and I can get your next question in with Ice Time
No
Hockey.
problem. Sorry, I didn't. One question for Commissioner Weems and one question for the coach. Did all these talks pick up speed after that NCAA convention where they made their decisions, or did not make any changes about one sport conferences?
Right. I would say partly the stars just aligned a little bit. I had my first meeting with Coach Powers actually last summer. He was in St. Cloud for his daughter's USA hockey camp, and I had lunch. And then I had an opportunity over the winter just to go down to Tempe and tour the facility and talk to Ray and Frank and Greg a little bit more. And at that point, just with the conversation, with the advancement of the arena and just seeing what a quality facility it is, and seeing their commitment and the progress that they had made, it just made sense that this was the right time. And so we began certainly more in earnest at the end of the season as things opened up and we had a little bit more time for conversation. But certainly just knowing, changes in the landscape of college athletics, we always want to make sure that we're taking care of our conference and our member institutions and positioning us for success as we go forward.
And do we have a timeline for announcing changes to the conference tournament?
We will discuss format over the next couple of months and just make sure that we're putting into effect what's in the best interest of our conference and our institutions.
And finally, Coach, you have 6 games against NCHC teams this year. Are those going to be a little more intense now that there are going to be future rivalries?
I mean, I think those rivalries are going to develop naturally over time, but yeah, I mean, it certainly is going to be nice to get a look into, what it's going to be like. We've played Denver and CC quite a bit already. Miami is a team we have not played, one of the few left that we have not played. So we're excited to go to Oxford and play them.
Thanks, Coach, and thanks, Paul. Back to Ken Landau with CC Radio.
Thanks, Michael. This is for Ray and Greg. You guys are the lone program out there in the desert. Have you guys had discussions with your friends down the road in Tucson about elevating their club program in light of the success that you guys have had to maybe get another D1 program in close proximity or closer proximity to where you guys are located?
Greg, I'll defer to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think, every ACHA, program has, goals and they want to do what we were able to do. But on an institutional level, I couldn't answer that. I know that University of Arizona has had a tremendously successful ACHA program for many years. They're building a brand new facility in Tucson that seats 3,000 people. That's going to be specifically for U of A hockey, both men's and women's. But I do not believe they have any intentions of elevating at this time. And that's just based off of what, the guy that runs their ACHA program is telling me.
I have had no discussions with their athletic director or anyone else there about any intentions to elevate to Division I hockey. Just haven't. There hasn't been a subject that I've brought up, nor have they. So I don't know where they stand on that, Ken.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Ken. Back to Brad Schlossman, the Grand Forks Herald.
Just a couple procedure questions. Heather, how many teams would need to vote yes for a team to come into the league?
According to our NCHC bylaws, it is a 3/4 positive vote. So it required 6 of the 8 to add membership.
And then you said board of directors voted unanimously. I was under the impression the presidents also had to vote. Did they have to vote too, or was the board of directors vote the final vote?
So the board of directors is comprised of the presidents and the chancellors. That's the
Okay.
title for that group.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brad. Scott Strandy, Ice Time Hockey West.
All right, Michael, hopefully you can hear me. I'm on the road as usual. So anyway, congratulations, ASU Coach Powers and Ray Anderson for the move. It's been a process, I know. Coach, I want to ask you directly, how has the recruiting affected this right off the get-go? Because, you and I talked last year about the meaning of having a conference tournament. I'm just curious as to what recruiting's been like now. It's got to be fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's becoming more and more fun every year as we advance and we grow as a program and become more established with a real facility to play in now. And now with a conference home, I think we're a very attractive program for many players, and we have been already. But like I said, it's what every student athlete wants. They want to compete for championships. And now, no matter what, we get to do that every year.
And a quick follow-up for you, Coach, on that one is, I know how close you are to the other independents. Does this move, in your mind, help them or keep them stable or hurt them?
I don't know. I don't give you a definitive answer on that. I hope that it helps them. I hope that it gives their administration and leadership belief that this can happen for them if they just continue to plug away and do things the right way. Because that's what we believe we've done. And that's why we're here today. So hopefully it helps them and gives them hope that the same can happen for them.
And Ray, just one for you. You've talked a little bit about the importance of this being a revenue sport and a revenue generator. Can you talk a little bit about the first year, what it's been like and what kind of revenue it's been for Arizona State?
Yeah, let me defer to my colleague and Chief Financial Officer, Frank Ferrara, on that one, because it is a very positive story, and he's worked so hard with Heather to get us here today. He can share some good news from his perspective. Frank,
I knew there was a reason I was on this Zoom. I knew at some point
You're
this
welcome,
discussion
Frank.
was
You're
going to
welcome.
come. So, yeah, little bit of a preamble. One of the things that I've often said. I met a lot of you folks on this from the media, obviously prior to this, and our mission here was to prove that this works. Right when we started this out 7 years ago, that this could be a solution financially not just adding to the problem. That hockey, when it's done the right way, with the right building, with the right facilities, with the right competition, this can work. And certainly the building was a big help in doing this. So we have over $3 million worth of ticket sales our first year. So we have a wonderful 5,000 seat arena, and there's a lot of arenas that have 5,000 seats. But what makes ours different is that we have a ton of a premium. The availability that we have in our club spaces, in our suites, et cetera, really puts us over the top. The thing that what I always like to say is this building was built so well that even though it only has 5,000 seats in it, an NHL team actually considered play and is playing in it. So that just tells you everything else that you want to know. But again, at some point, this is more than about college hockey. It's more than just Sun Devil hockey or the NCHC or great partners. This is about growing this great sport. And I really hope some of these other schools that are out there that are considering, in the non-traditional markets are taking notice.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Scott. Let's go back to Brad and Grand Forks.
Heather, one more for you. Just in the last year, Miami's athletic director was quoted as saying he had no interest in crossing another time zone to play sports. And if the league continued to push in that direction, that would cause them to think differently about what's happening. Did you sense Miami has changed its tune on that? Are there any indications that Miami is looking to leave the league potentially?
Yeah. Obviously, membership decisions are, in conference affiliation always begin with the president and chancellors and athletics directors at those institutions. That said, over the course of the last couple of months, I think we've had some really good discussions. I think we were able to demonstrate, particularly through the pod scheduling model, that there isn't really an increase in expenses because of the preferred scheduling within that pod and the 8 home and away games that'll be with kind of their rivalry partners, again, just in that pod format. And so I think from an expense perspective, they saw that there wasn't going to be maybe the impact that they had seen previously. Obviously, I think in the winter months, Arizona is on Arizona time, which is consistent with mountain time. And the last thing I'll say, and certainly having traveled there myself, there isn't an easier destination other than probably St. Thomas or the University of Minnesota in some ways to get to. You land in Phoenix, and it's a light rail or about a 10 or 15 minute bus drive. So from a student athlete experience perspective, I think that they bring us a great opportunity, not only for our student athletes and travel, but really for our fans as well. So I think that Miami has certainly been supportive, and they were part of the voting at the end that was unanimous. So I think we're in a good space right now.
Had they discussed potentially leaving the league with you guys yet?
I mean, obviously there were the comments that David made in that article last fall. We've had some kind of cursory conversation about what does hockey alignment look like in the future long term, but there's nothing specific to report at this point.
Thanks, Brad and Heather. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other names in the chat at the moment. So if you have any questions, type your name and affiliation in the chat. We'll give it another second here. Otherwise, we can probably wrap this up. Going once, twice. All right, I think that's all the questions that we have. Thank you to Greg and Ray and Heather, as well as all of our media for joining us today on this exciting day. And we look forward to ASU officially becoming a member of the NCHC on July 1st, 2024. Have a great afternoon, and thanks to everyone for joining us. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.